The king's business requires haste. The king's business requires haste. This comes from 1 Samuel 21:8. And David has been summoned, and he says, "And David said to Elimelech, is there here a hand or a spear or a sword? For I have not brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business requires haste." Now, what do you think of when you hear the word haste? I think most of you would immediately think of the phrase, haste makes waste, wouldn't you? We often think that haste means that we're in a hurry. Well, I want to tell you that this morning, haste is not, the way it's used in God's Word is not a hurry. Like here's the common definitions for haste. Swiftness of motion. He performed his task with great haste. Number 2, unnecessarily quick action, thoughtless, rash, or undue speed. That's where haste makes waste comes from. Number 3, though, an urgent need of quick action. The king's business requires haste. The king's business requires haste. This message kind of came together. I was already planning on preaching from these 3 parables this morning that you're probably thinking, well, you just quoted from the Old Testament. Yes, we are going to do the parables this morning. And as we were sitting at the retreat, Mark Corvette, who is the district superintendent of the Crossroads District, which is in Indiana, it's the central and what used to be the central and northern districts of Indiana. Mark quoted that in one of John Wesley's last sermons was one that was called "The King's Business Requires Haste." And we've been looking a lot at the king's business over the last couple weeks, and one of the things that I really want to say this morning is that the king's business requires haste, or the king's business requires urgency. We need to be urgent about the king's business. Now, we're going to be in Luke chapter 15. We're going to be with some very familiar stories in God's Word this morning. And I want to read the first 2 parables, and then I'm going to paraphrase the last parable. I'm going to put it in a little bit more modern phrasing, and you'll see what I mean. But listen to the way Luke sets this up. It says, tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. And this made the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them. Apparently, in that culture, eating with sinners means that's the people you really hang around with. And so they're saying, Jesus, why are you tarnishing your reputation? Why are you hanging around with sinners? Why aren't you hanging around with the religious people? You've come to be the Savior of the Jewish people, and here you are hanging around with tax collectors and the unrighteous people. What are you doing, Jesus? So Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. And when he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, because I have found my lost sheep." In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. It goes on. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she will call on her friends and neighbors and say, "Rejoice with me, for I have found my lost coin." In the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels when even one sinner repents. The king's business requires urgency. Did you notice in both of these stories that Jesus told That it's not the emphasis on the found thing, it's the emphasis on the lost thing. The shepherd had 99 sheep already safe in the fold. That's 99%. You know, you think about it. Think about the grading system at school. I think it's kind of upped a little bit. It used to be 90 to 100% used to be an A. Now it's like 93% or 94% to 100's an A. But think about it. Even in school, if you have 90% of your sheep, you've got an A. But the shepherd said, 99% isn't good enough. I've got to have all of my sheep back in the fold. And so what did he do? He left 99 sheep who were already safe in their fold, and he went out into the wilderness. Now, there was no other shepherd for the other sheep, so he risked the life and limb of those 99 that were already safe and went out into the wilderness to look for the lost sheep. Talk about urgency. The king's business requires haste. The second story is a lot like it. Jesus says there was a woman with 10 coins, and she loses just one. Well, that's not too bad. That's just 10%. I mean, we pay more than that in taxes. And she lost one coin. And what does she do? How many of you have ever done this when you go into a house? You lose something in the house, and you're looking all over for it. You just tear up the house. This morning I went looking for my anointing oil because the last time I saw it was next to the printer on the breakfast nook. And so I went looking over it. I found a whole bunch of guitar picks. that didn't help me. And so I went downstairs and looked for my anointing oil there. And somehow the Lord spoke to me. It's over at church. I'm like, okay. So I quickly came over here and found it right where I had left it. You know, and so many times, I remember several years ago, it was at church, and I was looking for my Bible. I mean, a pastor and his Bible get separated at church. And this went on for like half the week. This went on for like 2 weeks. And it's my favorite Bible. It's the one I have here on the platform with me this morning. And I have it all marked up. And so I was looking for it and looking for it and looking for it. And finally, I'm like, okay, Lord, you're going to have to show me where that Bible is. So later on in the week, I was looking for a USB charger. And I go into the drawer of my desk, and I find where I knew my USB charger was, and I open up the drawer. I'm like, how did my Bible get in that drawer? I mean, I had tore up everything. I was looking everywhere in my office. I was looking all over the church for it. I'm like, what did I do with my Bible? The king's business requires urgency. The king's business required haste. It requires an all-in commitment. And, you know, sometimes when we as Christians, sometimes even we as pastors, we say, you know, I've got to spend more time in the community. And people are like, well, Pastor, why can't you spend time with us? And it's important. I need to spend time with you guys. You know, God calls us as pastors to equip the saints for works of service and ministry. And so it's important to spend time with you. But I think about these two stories. 99 sheep who are safe, and a shepherd went out for one more. And the Pharisees, they were getting annoyed at Jesus. Jesus, why do you keep going and hanging out with the sinners? You came to save us. Why do you keep spending time with the sinners? Remember what Jesus said after he met Zacchaeus? We looked at it last week. He said, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and save those who are lost. The king's business requires urgency. The lost thing becomes the all-consuming passion. He searches until he finds it. There is urgency in his mission. There is passion in his mission. And when he finds it, they throw a party. Isn't it cool that every time one sinner comes to the Lord, there is a party in heaven? You know, the angels, don't get me wrong, the angels rejoice that you are all here this morning. But Just to think about when one person comes to Jesus, there's a party in heaven. Wouldn't it be great if we could get to the point where we are so urgent and so hasteful with the message of Christ that there was just an ongoing party in heaven? That's my desire. That's my desire. Diligent search. You know, we have the lost sheep. Jesus and the shepherd is looking for the sheep. We have the parable of the lost coin where the woman is looking all over. And again, when they find it, there is great rejoicing. The king's business requires haste. The king's business requires urgency. Jesus came to seek and save those who were lost. Jesus is the King of Kings. And if he's the King of Kings and we are to be his followers, and he's called us to be his Christ followers, he wants us to do the same. He wants us to seek and save the lost with an all-consuming passion. So let me share the third story. So if you're following in your Bibles, you know the first one is the shepherd. The second one is the coin. The third one is this story of the prodigal son. It's one that we know well, but I'm not going to read it. There was a father and he had two sons. And one day the younger son approached the father and he asked for his share of the inheritance. He says, "Dad, I don't want to wait till you die to get my share of the inheritance. I want my inheritance right now, right here. Give me your inheritance." And so the father thinks about it for a minute and he honors the son's wishes. And the son doesn't really realize how rich his father was. He realizes that he can now put this crummy little town behind him. He can say goodbye to the 1,000 people in this town, and he can go away, and he can look at this town in the rearview mirror, and he can pursue his dreams. His dreams were to be a country music star, to play music all over the country. And so he packs up all his belongings. He buys a nice red Mustang, and he hails it to Nashville, where he plans to pursue his dreams in the music industry. This man had, this son, he had all the good looks. I mean, he looked the part of the country music star. He had the talent for it. And he had the money. After all, his father was rich and he had a sizable inheritance. And all is fine and dandy for a while. And he gets caught up in the glitz and the glamour of the Nashville style. Now, if you've ever been to Nashville, it's as glitzy and glamorous as Las Vegas. I promise you, we've been there. This is Broadway. That's the main street through Nashville. And there is music literally in every one of those shops all the way up the street. There are people playing. It's amazing. He gets caught in the glitz and the glamour, and he had women at his command. He had friends, partied with them. Unfortunately, it didn't go as well as he expected. He expected to be an instant hit. And as the way things go in the music industry, you know how this goes. You know that one style of music doesn't stay the style of music for very long, and the music that he was really good at, well, guess what? One day you're in, the next day you're out. And all of a sudden he finds himself not even being able to play the music. He ends up in this corner little dive bar, serving rowdy patrons. The women are gone because he doesn't have any money. His friends are gone because he doesn't have any money. And he's serving people at the bar, hating his life, doesn't even have enough money. The bar owner gave him a little crummy apartment upstairs. And he's serving people, barely has enough money to buy food. And he says, "What in the world am I doing?" He comes to his senses. Why am I slaving around? Why am I slaving here for for my dad. I could be one of my dad's hired men, and I'd have a better living than I have here. This is crummy. So he has an epiphany moment. And he repents of the attitude that he had toward his hometown. He repents of the attitude that he had toward his father. And he calls up his dad. He says, Dad, it's me. I've sinned against you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. I want to come home. Don't even treat me as a son, but simply as one of your employees. This young man who had squandered everything and didn't even have the brand new car that he bought with his share of the inheritance. He tells his dad that. His father says, don't worry, son. I'll buy you a plane ticket and you can come home. Wow. That's a story of grace, isn't it? I don't think it's too far from the story that's in the Word. I think it follows pretty good with the story that's in the Word. I'm sure not one of us, when a child says, you know what, I've repented of my bad attitude. I've repented of the things I've done and I've said to you. You wouldn't do the same thing that father did. And he took his arms, he went to the airport, he knew when his son was flying in, and he went to the airport and he hugged his son. He said, it's so good to have you back. And again, his son repeats, Dad, I'm not even worthy to be your son. You know, just let me work for you. That's all I want. I want a decent bed to lay in at night, and I just want to work for you. I'm God has humbled me. He says, no, son, you were lost, but now you're found. We're going to have a party. We're going to throw a huge, huge party. Let's spare no expense. We must celebrate because this is my son. Wow. Grace. And so they have a big party, and well, you know the story. There's an older brother involved in this story. And he's a faithful brother. He never abandoned his father. And he never abandoned his father's household. He stayed faithful to his father. And somehow he was not aware of this big celebration that was going to be held in his younger brother's name. And he comes home from being away and wonders, what in the world? That loud music with that big bass pumping. Boom, 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 boom. What is going on? And he's standing outside, and Dad comes out and he goes, son, come on inside. We're having a party. Your brother came home. He's livid. What do you mean? Not only did he squander his half the inheritance, he's completely broke. He came home completely broke, and now you're going to throw him a party, and now you're wasting my half of the inheritance on him? How many times do we feel that way as believers? How many times are we the older son when someone comes to Jesus? We ask, you know, why, Pastor, why do we have to change the music? Why do we got to redecorate the church? Why do we got to keep changing? Why do things have to keep changing to reach the lost? Well, I'll tell you what. This word, it doesn't change. Jesus came to seek and save the lost. Jesus came to the earth to dwell among us, to pay the price for our sins, to go to the cross, to die a slave's death on the cross we read this morning. He rose again to free us from the power of sin, and he's gone home to prepare a place for us. That doesn't change. But sometimes the way we do it, the way we present the story, that changes. Just like I didn't read the story of the Prodigal Son in farmer's terminology, I did it in what we would understand. You know, we come from a small town, and we love McCraybrook. We are called to McCraybrook, and don't think, oh, Pastor Dale's mad. I'm not mad. But sometimes we look out and We see the ones outside and like, haha, we're safe. We don't have to worry about it. But there's a world outside that's not safe. There's a world that's not safe. You know, I've often said it this way. We have heaven and we have hell. We all believe, you know, the old country song, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. But there's a heaven and there's a hell. And at least the way I understand it, heaven's going to be for those who are righteous, who obey God's commands. And hell's going to be for everyone else. And it's, and forget what people say. When people say that, oh, I'm going to go party with all my friends in hell. No. You know, we talk about hell being a place on earth. You know, people have said, I've gone through hell here on earth. You know? I often think that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. And we are quite aware, and we say it all the time, that God is in control, that God is in control of this earth and this universe. Right? You believe that, right? That God is in control of this. So what if this is and I just want you to think this morning, and I'm not saying that this is the way it is, but what if heaven is the place where God eternally reigns, and that we are in His presence continually, and we are never to be separated from God again? But what if hell? Even if hell is not a lake of fire, even if hell is not wailing and gnashing of teeth, what if hell is just the lack of God's presence? Have you ever thought about that? I have. If God's presence isn't there, if God's presence is here and we see the earth the way it is, and there was another school shooting this week. If this is where God dwells with us in our fallen world, can you imagine a world where God does not exist? His presence does not exist? Even if it doesn't have the fire, even if it doesn't have the wailing and gnashing of teeth, that's bad enough. If God is not there, it's going to be a horrible, horrible, horrible place. The king's business requires haste. It requires urgency. Dad says, your brother's back. I decided to throw a big celebration in his honor and because of his safe return. He was thinking, well, I deserve this party. He goes, matter of fact, in the scriptures it tells us about, he goes, Dad, I've stayed with you all the time. And I never even asked for a lamb for you. You never threw me a party. You didn't even ever give me a lamb to have a little party with my friends. You know what the father kind of says? He says, you never asked. Ouch. Ouch. The father responds, but you have stayed by me. You have been obedient. You know what? Let's face it, we are the older brothers. We are the older brothers. We have been obedient. And you know what God says? God says, it's all mine. You can have it all. It's all yours. But we need to celebrate today because this brother who was dead is now alive. He is lost and he's now found. When I was at Indiana Wesleyan, our choir director, he was a man who loved urgency. If you've ever heard the Indiana Wesleyan Chorale sing, they sing songs at twice the speed other choirs sing them at. And they sing them with incredible precision. I mean, just incredible precision. They do a version of Ezekiel Saw the Wheel. It's just amazing. And then they do an arrangement of Mighty Fortress Is Our God. And I just stand there, I listen to them like, wow. But one of the things, if you've ever gone and seen the Indiana Wesleyan Chorale, one of the things that you will notice is that they walk with purpose. They walk with urgency. They walk with haste. When the Indiana Wesleyan Chorale enters a sanctuary, there is no doubt that the Indiana Wesleyan Chorale is there. As I think about the kingdom of God, after all, that's what these parables are about. They're about the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God requires haste. It requires urgency. The kingdom of God requires purpose. And Jesus said that he came to seek and save the lost. And if we are followers of Christ, shouldn't that be our purpose as well? We need to be doing all that we can to reach souls that are lost. Do we really believe that people who don't know Jesus, and sometimes I have, and honestly I have to ask myself the same question, because sometimes my urgency isn't what it needs to be. But do we really believe that people are going to a Christless eternity without Jesus? And that hurts. That hurts. So we, as individuals, and we, as the corporate body of Christ, should be doing everything in our power to reach them. Guess what? Everybody needs to be on the playing field. We need to be diligent in our search for those who are lost. We need to be building relationships with those who don't know Jesus. And one of the things, I'm so glad, I remember back to that interview. Matter of fact, that interview is coming up on about its 2-year anniversary now. I don't remember when it was. It was in February or March. I can't remember. It was all a blur. But I remember one of the things that you guys said were like, Pastor Dale, if you come here, we want you to be involved in the community. I think we've done a good job of being very involved in the community. And I love being part of our community. I love being with you guys. And I love where we've gone so far, but guess what? We still got a lot of work to do. We've still got a lot of work to do. I loved it. Shirley, a couple weeks ago, came up and, Pastor, I'm praying that someday we're going to have to break out this building. We're going to have like 700 people here. I'm like, yes, Shirley, yeah, go. Let's go for it. Yeah. Because you know what? Even if every church in the Otto Eldred Ministerium was filled to capacity, there would still be lost people out there. Every church has 99 saved people, but there's one more. There's one more. I want to share another verse from Luke chapter 5. Later, Levi held a banquet in his home with Jesus as the guest of honor. Many of Levi's fellow tax collectors and other guests ate with him. Guess what? But the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious law complained bitterly to Jesus' disciples. Why do you eat and drink with such scum? Hold that slide right there. Go back. One of the challenges I want to give you this morning is I want you to find some cruddy buddies. That was the favorite term of our DS back in Virginia. And he always talked about this, and especially the pastors. He says, make sure you have some cruddy buddies. What does that mean? That means make sure that you're palling around people who don't know Jesus and rub off on them. And so, you know, I've got quite a few. I've got some that I hang around. The other morning, Pam said she caught more of it than I did, but she was in the bus garage in the front office waiting, and she goes, "Oh man, Dale," she goes, "the air was blue." I'm like, wow. But you know what? That's okay. You know what? That's okay. Because we have to build relationships somehow. We have to build relationships somehow. You know what? Shirley does it at the senior center. You know? Find a place where you can connect with people who don't know Jesus and love on them. Love on them. Why do you eat and drink with such scum? Look what Jesus says. Jesus answered them, healthy people don't need a doctor. Sick people do. I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners and need to repent. What is our all-consuming passion? And I will admit that sometimes it doesn't consume me as much as it should. But I want us as a church to covenant together, to do all that we can to reach the lost in Eldred, McKean County, and no matter what it takes. No matter what it takes.